Africa doesn't need China or America. We just need the courage to stand alone. My African brothers and sisters, across the continent and in the diaspora, I greet you with respect, with hope, and with urgency. You are watching See Africa TV, the voice of a rising people. Today's broadcast is not just another report. It is a cry from the soil beneath our feet, a call from the future of our children. The question before us is simple, yet powerful. Do we really need the United States or China in Africa? Or are they here just to control and exploit us? Before we go deeper, I ask you, like this video, share it with 5 people, and subscribe to See Africa TV, because this is where the truth is told, raw and unfiltered. We don't just tell stories, we shape the African future. This broadcast is for educational and public awareness purposes. The views expressed here are based on available evidence and lived African experiences. We challenge you to think critically, question everything, and verify for yourself. U.S. General Michael Langley recently made a revealing statement. He said, "America does not want to do more for Africa, but to help Africa do more for itself." At first glance, that sounds empowering. But let's ask the real question. Why are U.S. military bases still spread across the continent? Why the sudden cuts to aid while terrorism in the Sahel explodes? What kind of partner tells you to stand on your own, then walks away while your house is burning?
This video is so fascinating because in a way it is pretty brutally honest, you know, I mean, why is the US there? Access and influence, and also we're in this geostrategic competition with Russia and China. I mean, it's interesting how the tune changes depending on who the audience is. So in this case, you know, General Langley is being grilled by a bunch of other people who are very ardent supporters of the US imperialist system. And so he's not putting up some sort of facade like, oh, we are here for humanitarian reasons. We're here to help African people. We're here to, you know, fight terrorism. That wasn't mentioned at all in his reason for being, you know, why is the US in Africa? So it's kind of interesting that the true colors are being shown a little bit, like, oh, it's actually very good for US interests, for our access, for our influence, and for...
Now China steps in, smiling, silent, strategic. They train troops in Tanzania. They build railways in Kenya. They drill your oil, mine your cobalt, and walk away with the profit, all while claiming mutual respect. But when a loan defaults, they seize your port. Is that respect or quiet colonization? Our leaders shake hands with Beijing and Washington, but who shakes hands with the African people?
So Nigeria has just signed a new loan deal with China, and the money is going toward building a major road that links the Lekki deep sea port and the Dangote refinery to Nigeria's southern states. Now, on the surface, this sounds like good news, right? More infrastructure, more trade, more jobs. But dig deeper, and the story gets a little more complicated. Because this isn't Nigeria's first loan from China, no. And with over $5 billion already owed, questions are rising. Can Nigeria afford this? What's really in the fine print? And is China building roads or building leverage? Today on The Breakdown, we're unpacking the full story, what this deal actually means, who benefits, and whether Nigeria is on the road to development or driving straight into a debt trap.
China's Belt and Road Initiative, I mean, I think they're absolutely competitive. I think there are a lot of reasons to be wary of them. I also think you have to give credit where credit is due. And boy, have they been strategic over the last 2 decades. So their Belt and Road Initiative, they've got the African continent wired. By wired, I mean they own a lot of the mines, a lot of the resources for minerals that we need very much, not just for our economic, certainly for our economic well-being and for our national security well-being. And they've built the ports to be able to move stuff. They've built the railroads and paid for them to be able to move stuff, and we are behind. And so they control, for example, 95%, you heard me right, 95% of the processing capacity for rare earth elements, without which we cannot make chips. So it's great that we have the chips legislation that we have.
Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. These are not just countries. They are battlefields in the silent war for Africa's soul. Terror groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda grow stronger. Not because Africa is weak, but because foreign solutions are not African solutions. AFRICOM cannot fix what colonial borders broke. Chinese training cannot replace grassroots defense. What we need is not foreign troops. It is African unity and purpose.
Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about resilience. Africa has been through it all. Colonization, exploitation, wars, and even natural disasters. But guess what? We're still here, and we're rising. Despite the centuries of exploitation, Africa continues to stand tall. We've been scattered, divided, and pushed to the margins. But no more. We've survived, and we've fought back, and we've rebuilt, and we're still rebuilding. We've gone from being the world's resource mine to now being one of the most promising frontiers for development and innovation. Now, I don't know about you, but that excites me. What excites me even more is the fact that Africa is not waiting for anyone to tell us how to rise. We're doing it on our own terms. Africa is no longer seeking validation. We are seeking respect and partnership. Our young people, our innovators, our leaders are shaping a new future for the continent. A future that we control. And guess what? This future is filled with limitless possibilities. From tech to sustainable agriculture, energy innovation to e-commerce, Africa is a land of opportunities. The days of exploitation are fading, and the time for Africa to take its rightful place on the world stage is now.
Let's ask again. Who truly needs who? The U.S. needs our strategic minerals. China needs our markets and military footholds. Africa is not poor. Africa is being pillaged with paperwork and peace talks. The truth? We don't need handouts. We need freedom. We need leadership. We need unity. Not from Washington or Beijing. From Lagos, Addis Ababa, Nairobi, Dakar, Yaoundé, Kinshasa, and Harare. What if ECOWAS, SADC, EAC, and the African Union truly work together? What if we invested in African-made drones, African-trained forces, African-led peacekeeping? What if African nations traded more with each other than with China or Europe? This is not a dream. It is a plan waiting for action.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is whether we like it or not, however you fall on the political spectrum, this is just a reminder, as you said earlier, that Africa needs to rely on our own neighbors and partners within the continent. The idea of a United States of Africa is seeming more and more necessary as we go forward. So hopefully, we see that. And look, whether it's from the East or the West, whether it's China or it's the US or the global North, as they call it, everyone's going to operate with their own self-interest, their own best interest. But I think that the difference, as you mentioned, is with China, at least it looks more like a partnership. Even if it's a one-sided partnership, it looks like a partnership. And things actually get developed and they bring workers to do the work and sometimes hire workers here or hire workers there in Africa. Whereas most of what the United States does, and I think that's probably what their biggest issue was, is they gave cash, which never had a direct impact on the people on the ground, right? It almost always went into the pockets of those corrupt leaders that we all have issues with.
Africa does not need to be babysat by global powers. Africa is not a chessboard for foreign generals. We must rise, not with permission, but with purpose. We must say, no more puppets, no more permanent crutches, no more being milked in silence. We are not enemies of the West or East, but we are not your subjects. We are Africa, the mother of civilization, the heart of humanity, and the hope of tomorrow. Comment below. Do you believe Africa needs China or America? Subscribe now to See Africa TV and join the awakening. Share this video. Let it reach our leaders. Let it spark a revolution of thought. Let Africa speak. Let Africa rise. Let Africa be free.